This is the Go Maluku podcast.
Did we get Indigenous rights into the operational? 100%. It was. Let me give you like a brief chronological overview of how that happened. At first iteration, what we saw was in 6.2 and 6.4, the references to protect human rights and the rights of Indigenous peoples. That was great. We said, yeah, let's keep that in. So we started, instead of having to introduce language is in there. And it's easier to defend language that's in there than to introduce language that is not in there. So that was a huge win. And thank you so much to the Indigenous peoples, constituencies, and parties as well for making that happen, which made my life a lot easier. What happened? So you have, throughout the 2 weeks, you have iterations or new drafts. So dialogue, new draft, which is reflective of the dialogues. And then based on the new draft, dialogue, reflection, and then reflect, boom, new draft. And so this is incremental approach, these milestones throughout the 2 weeks, leading into the final text that was adopted yesterday. First draft, human rights and rights of the peoples reflected, great. And then we saw in terms of negotiations, in terms of conversations, that there was a push for not having the language explicit protect human rights and rights of Indigenous peoples in there, but have different language. And then the proposal was to reflect the preamble paragraph 11 of the Paris Agreement. Now, what does the 11th preamble paragraph mean? It just says that parties, when taking action, that should respect, promote, and consider their respective obligations in terms of human rights, right to health, rights of Indigenous peoples, etc., etc. It's a very comprehensive paragraph. So the move that was made, that was to instead of protect human rights and rights of Indigenous peoples, that they copy pasted the 11th preamble paragraph into the text. So it actually operationalizes the preamble, which was actually what we wanted. Operationalize the preamble, which means the rights of indigenous peoples, which was like 6.2. So we had that mainstreamed, the same references, and 6.4 as well. We just needed 6.4 not yet. It said that any activities need to be in line with the 11th preamble paragraph of the Paris Agreement, which is a little bit different. It says the same, but it is different. So we said, as a matter of consistency, that, and this is what we wanted. We want to have human rights mainstreamed, and mainstream means that it's under all on all sub paragraphs. So sub-articles, so 6.2, 6.4, and 6.8, that's mainstream. That's a baseline of a minimum standard that says, according to the 11th paragraph of the preamble of the Paris Agreement, that everything needs to be in line with their respective obligations on human rights and rights of Indigenous peoples. So that was what we had to do to operationalize it, and which we did. We were able to, and it got into 6.2 on reporting, and then 6.4 on activity design, and then expanded from just the referencing 11th paragraph of the preamble of the Paris Agreement towards the actual text of the 11th preamble. And then at the final hour, 6.8 also had a reference to the Paris preamble. So not only do we have operationalized text, but we also have a chapeau. And a chapeau is a preamble paragraph, which is actually the exact same, but it's also overarching, that it has the same language, meaning the 11th paragraph of the Paris Agreement. So the funny thing is, in Article 6 right now, you have not only three, four, five, six, at least 7 references to the 11th paragraph of the preamble paragraph of the Paris Agreement. So, out of which 3 are preambular, but 4 of them are actually actionable. So we have actually operationalized human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples as safeguards throughout the application of Article 6. So, which is huge, and actually, if you think about it, it took us 6 years. It took us 6 years to finally operationalize human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples in a legally binding text, and which is now actionable. And there's also, sorry, I should end with that. So to answer the question, did we get into indigenous rights into the operational? Hell yeah, absolutely. And it is now just a matter of the fact that it's in the text doesn't mean that you need to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. It is the fact that it's in the text means that you need to keep them accountable to it. You now have a hook to keep parties and the UNFCCC accountable to human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples. So sitting back, relax, and enjoy the ride and letting all things unfold and everything else is not good enough. You actually have to do some work as well. So that's also a side note that I would like to add to the operationalization of indigenous rights in Article 6.
My friends, you can now also listen to the Go Maluku podcast on Spotify. Listen while you use other apps or do other things. If you don't have Spotify, just open your Apple or Google podcast or your favorite podcasting app and search for the Go Maluku podcast.